The morning sun was barely up when the old pickup truck pulled into the parking lot of Riverside Elementary School. Inside sat a 9-year-old girl named Lily, her fingers nervously playing with the zipper of her backpack. Her mother sat behind the wheel, trying to find the right words to say. "You're going to do great today," her mother said, forcing a smile. "New beginnings are scary, but they can also be beautiful." Lily nodded, but her stomach was doing flips. She had never been the new kid before. Back in her hometown, she knew everyone. She knew which trees were best for climbing, which neighbors had dogs that would bark at you, and which shortcuts would get you home fastest. But that was all gone now. 3 months ago, her father had lost his job at the textile mill. The mill had been the heart of their small town, and when it closed down, it felt like the whole place just stopped breathing. Her father looked for work everywhere, but there was nothing. Bills piled up. Letters with red stamps started showing up in the mailbox. Then one night, Lily heard her parents talking in hushed voices at the kitchen table. "My cousin says there's work in the city," her father had said. "It's not much, but it's something." And just like that, their whole life got packed into cardboard boxes. They moved into a small apartment on the 4th floor of a building that smelled like old paint and had a hallway light that flickered every few seconds. Their new home was nothing like the little house with the big backyard where Lily had learned to ride her bike. But her mother kept saying they should be grateful. At least they had a roof over their heads. Lily stepped out of the truck and looked up at her new school. It was bigger than her old one. The walls were made of red brick, and there was a large sign near the entrance that read, "Excellence through dedication." She didn't know what that meant exactly, but it sounded serious. Her mother walked her to the front office, filled out some papers, and then knelt down to look Lily in the eyes. "Remember what Grandma always told you," her mother whispered. "You carry something special inside you. Don't ever let anyone make you forget that." Lily hugged her mother tight, breathing in the familiar scent of lavender soap. Then a woman from the office came to take her to class, and Lily had to let go. The walk to the classroom felt like it took forever. Lily's shoes squeaked against the shiny floor. She noticed how clean everything was, how the lockers were all painted the same shade of blue, how the other kids walking by had backpacks that looked brand new. She looked down at her own bag. It had been her cousin's before it was hers. There was a small tear near the bottom that her mother had stitched up with thread that didn't quite match. When they reached room 4B, the office lady knocked twice and opened the door. The classroom fell silent. About 25 kids turned their heads to stare at Lily. She felt her cheeks burn. "This is your new student," the office lady announced. "Please make her feel welcome." The teacher stood up from her desk. She was a tall woman with her hair pulled back so tight it made her face look stretched. Her glasses sat low on her nose, and when she looked at Lily, there was no warmth in her eyes. "I'm Mrs. Coleman," the teacher said. "You can take a seat at the back." Lily walked past the rows of desks, feeling every pair of eyes following her. She found an empty seat in the very last row, next to a window that looked out onto the playground. She sat down and placed her backpack on the floor, trying to make herself as small as possible. Mrs. Coleman went back to the lesson without another word about Lily. It was like the new girl had already been forgotten. But Lily noticed something. Every now and then, Mrs. Coleman would glance at a piece of paper on her desk. Lily couldn't be sure, but she thought it might be her enrollment form. And every time Mrs. Coleman looked at it, her lips would press together in a thin line dotted lunch. Lily sat alone at the end of a long table. She opened her paper bag and pulled out a peanut butter sandwich. Her mother had written a little note on a napkin. "You are loved. Have a great day." Lily smiled and tucked the napkin into her pocket. She watched the other kids laughing and talking in groups. They all seemed to know each other so well. A few girls looked over at her and whispered something, then giggled. Lily pretended not to notice. She focused on her sandwich and tried to think about something else. That's when she saw it. Through the cafeteria doors, she could see into the auditorium across the hall. And there, sitting on the stage like it was waiting for someone, was a grand piano. It was black and shiny, and even from a distance, Lily could see how beautiful it was. Her heart skipped a beat. Back home, Lily's grandmother had owned a little keyboard. It was old, and some of the keys didn't work right, but Grandma treated it like it was made of gold. She used to sit Lily on her lap and teach her simple songs. "Music is a gift from God," Grandma would say. "And you, my sweet girl, you have that gift in your fingers." After Grandma passed away 2 years ago, Lily kept practicing. She watched videos online and checked out books from the library. She practiced on that same old keyboard, sometimes for hours, until her mother would tell her it was time for bed. The keyboard was one of the few things they brought with them to the new apartment. It sat in the corner of Lily's tiny room, and every night she would play softly so as not to bother the neighbors. But she had never played on a real piano before. Not like that one in the auditorium. After lunch, the class had a short assembly. Everyone filed into the auditorium and sat in rows of fold-out chairs. Lily ended up at the end of a row, close to the stage. She couldn't stop looking at the piano. Mrs. Coleman sat with the other teachers at the side of the room. Lily noticed her talking to another teacher, a younger woman with kind eyes. Mrs. Coleman was pointing at a clipboard and shaking her head. The younger teacher looked over at Lily with something like sympathy, but then Mrs. Coleman said something else, and the younger teacher looked away. Lily felt a sinking feeling in her chest. She didn't know what Mrs. Coleman was saying, but she had a feeling it wasn't good. That night, Lily's father came home late. He looked tired, his shoulders slumped, his hands rough from a long day of work at the warehouse. But he still smiled when he saw Lily. "How was your first day, little star?" he asked, using the nickname Grandma had given her. "It was okay," Lily said. Her father sat down next to her on the couch. "Just okay?" Lily thought about telling him everything. About the teacher who didn't smile at her. About eating lunch alone. About the kids who whispered. But she saw how tired he was, and she didn't want to add to his worries. "There's a piano at school," she said instead. "A real one. A big one." Her father's face softened. "Is that right?" "It's so beautiful, Dad. I wish I could play it." He put his arm around her and pulled her close. "Maybe one day you will. You just have to be patient. And remember what Grandma always said, that my music will speak for me when words can't," Lily finished. "That's right." He kissed the top of her head. "Now go practice. Let me hear something nice before bed." Lily went to her room and sat in front of her old keyboard. She closed her eyes, placed her fingers on the keys, and started to play. The notes filled the small apartment, floating through the thin walls and out into the night. She played a song Grandma had taught her, a slow and beautiful melody that always made her feel like Grandma was still there, sitting right beside her. And in that moment, Lily made herself a quiet promise. She didn't know how, and she didn't know when, but one day she was going to play that piano. And when she did, everyone would hear what she had been carrying inside her all along. The first week at Riverside Elementary felt like a month to Lily. Every day followed the same pattern. She would walk into class, sit at the back, and try to focus on her schoolwork while pretending she didn't notice the way Mrs. Coleman treated her. It started small. Little things that someone else might not even catch. When Lily raised her hand to answer a question, Mrs. Coleman would look right past her and call on someone else. When Lily turned in her homework, Mrs. Coleman would barely glance at it before putting it aside. And when Lily asked a question about the lesson, the teacher would sigh like she was being bothered. "Some students need to try harder to keep up," Mrs. Coleman said one morning, looking directly at Lily. "Not everyone learns at the same pace. And that's just how it is." The other kids noticed. Of course they did. Children always pick up on what adults do, even when they don't fully understand it. If the teacher treated the new girl like she didn't matter, then maybe she really didn't matter. That's how some of them started to think. A group of girls who sat near the front would sometimes look back at Lily and whisper to each other. Then they would laugh. Lily never knew what they were saying, but she could guess. It was probably about her clothes, which were clearly not as nice as theirs. Or maybe about how she always sat alone. Or how she never talked much. At lunch, Lily still sat by herself at the end of the long table. She brought her sandwich every day, and her mother always tucked a little note inside the bag. "Keep your head up. You're stronger than you know. I'm proud of you." Lily saved every single note in a little box under her bed. One afternoon, a boy named Tommy walked by her table with his tray. He stopped and looked at her like he was thinking about saying something. For a second, Lily felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe he would sit with her. Maybe he would be her first friend at this school. But then another boy called out from across the cafeteria. "Tommy, come on." "What are you doing?" Tommy glanced back at Lily, shrugged, and walked away. The spark went out. After lunch that day, the class had art. They were supposed to draw something that made them happy. Lily picked up her crayons and started drawing a picture of a piano. She used the black crayon to make the body of the piano, and then she carefully added the white and black keys. In the corner of the picture, she drew a small figure with long hair sitting at the bench. Mrs. Coleman walked around the room, looking at everyone's work. She praised one boy for his drawing of a soccer ball. She told a girl that her picture of a rainbow was lovely. When she got to Lily's desk, she stopped. "What is this supposed to be?" Mrs. Coleman asked, picking up the paper. "It's a piano," Lily said quietly. Mrs. Coleman raised an eyebrow. "Do you even know how to play piano?" Lily nodded. "My grandma taught me." For a moment, something flickered in Mrs. Coleman's eyes. It might have been surprise, but it quickly disappeared, replaced by that same cold look she always had. "Well," Mrs. Coleman said, placing the paper back down, "drawing a piano and playing one are two very different things." She walked away without another word. Lily stared at her drawing and tried not to let the tears come. She blinked hard and focused on adding more details to the picture. A little music note floating above the piano. A window with sunshine coming through. She wasn't going to cry. Not here. Not in front of everyone. That night, Lily told her mother what had happened. They were sitting together on the couch, and Lily's mother was brushing her daughter's hair, something she did every night before bed. "She doesn't believe I can play," Lily said. "She thinks I'm making it up." Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then she set the brush down and turned Lily around to face her. "Listen to me," her mother said. "There are always going to be people who don't believe in you. People who look at where you come from and decide they already know who you are. But they don't know anything, sweetheart. They don't know about your grandmother. They don't know how hard you practice. They don't know about the music you carry inside you." Lily's eyes were wet. "But what am I supposed to do?" Her mother smiled gently. "You keep going. You keep practicing. And one day, when the time is right, you show them. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right." The next week, something happened that changed everything. The principal made an announcement over the loudspeaker during morning class. "Good morning, students. I'm excited to announce that our annual spring talent show will be held in 6 weeks. Sign-up sheets will be posted outside the main office. We encourage everyone to participate and share their unique gifts with our school community. Lily's heart started beating faster. A talent show, with a stage, and probably that piano she had been dreaming about ever since she first saw it. Mrs. Coleman stood at the front of the classroom with her arms crossed. When the announcement ended, she cleared her throat. "I want to be very clear," she said, looking around the room. "The talent show is a privilege, not a right. Only students who have something meaningful to offer should sign up. We don't want to waste everyone's time with performances that aren't up to standard." Her eyes swept across the room and landed on Lily for just a second. It was quick, but Lily caught it. The message was clear. This wasn't for her. Some of the kids started talking excitedly about what they would do. One girl said she was going to sing. A boy said he was going to do magic tricks. Another kid wanted to do a comedy routine. Nobody asked Lily what she might do. After school, Lily walked past the main office. She saw the sign-up sheet pinned to a bulletin board. A few names were already on it. She stood there for a long time, just staring at the paper. A voice behind her made her jump. "You thinking about signing up?" Lily turned around and saw a man with gray hair and kind eyes. He was carrying a folder full of sheet music. "I'm Mr. Bennett," he said. "I teach music here." "You're the new student, right, Lily?" She nodded, surprised that he knew her name. "I've seen you looking at the piano in the auditorium," Mr. Bennett said with a warm smile. "You look at it the way someone looks at an old friend." Lily didn't know what to say. She wasn't used to teachers being nice to her at this school. "Do you play?" he asked. "Yes," Lily said. "My grandma taught me. I practice every day at home on my keyboard." Mr. Bennett's smile grew wider. "Is that right? Well, that's wonderful. We don't get many piano players at the talent show. Mostly singers and dancers." Lily looked down at her shoes. Mrs. Coleman said only students with real talent should sign up. Mr. Bennett was quiet for a second. Then he bent down a little so he was at her level. "Let me tell you something," he said. "Talent isn't about what other people think of you. Talent is what you feel when you play. It's the love you put into your music. And something tells me you have plenty of that." He straightened up and nodded toward the sign-up sheet. "If you want to play, you should sign up. Don't let anyone make that decision for you." Then he walked away, leaving Lily alone in front of the bulletin board. She stood there for another minute, her heart pounding. She thought about Mrs. Coleman and her cold looks. She thought about the girls who whispered and the kids who ignored her. She thought about all the times she felt invisible. Then she thought about her grandmother, about the way her hands felt on the keyboard, about the music that filled their little house and made everything feel okay. Even when it WASN single quotes T. Lily picked up the pen hanging from the board. Her hand trembled a little, but she wrote her name anyway. Under the column that said talent, she wrote one word piano. Then she turned and walked out of the building, her heart still racing, but something else building inside her too. Hope. The next morning, Lily walked into school feeling different. There was a nervous flutter in her stomach, but also something that felt a little like courage. She had signed up for the talent show. She had put her name on that list. There was no taking it back now. But word travels fast in elementary school. By the time she got to class, it seemed like everyone already knew. She could tell by the way they looked at her. Some kids stared with curiosity. Others whispered to their friends and laughed. One boy near the door nudged his friend and said just loud enough for Lily to hear, "She thinks she can play piano? Has anyone ever even seen her touch one?" Lily kept her head down and walked to her seat at the back of the room. She set her backpack on the floor and stared at her desk, trying to block out the noise around her. Then Mrs. Coleman walked in. The teacher set her things down on her desk and began taking attendance. Everything seemed normal at first. But when she finished calling names, she looked up and folded her hands in front of her. "I saw the talent show sign-up sheet this morning," Mrs. Coleman said. Her voice was calm, but there was something sharp underneath it. "I noticed some new names on the list." Lily felt her face go hot. She didn't look up. "I want to remind everyone," Mrs. Coleman continued, "that this talent show is a reflection of our school. The whole community will be there. Parents, teachers, the principal. We want to put our best foot forward." She paused and adjusted her glasses. "If anyone signed up and isn't sure they're ready, there's no shame in stepping back. It's better to wait until you're truly prepared than to embarrass yourself in front of everyone." Lily's heart sank. She knew exactly who that message was for Dot at lunch. She sat in her usual spot at the end of the table. She opened her paper bag and found her mother's note tucked inside. Today it said, "The world needs your music. Don't ever stop playing." Lily read it 3 times and then folded it carefully into her pocket. She was about to take a bite of her sandwich when a shadow fell over her. She looked up and saw 2 girls from her class standing there. One of them had her arms crossed and a smirk on her face. "So you're really going to play piano at the talent show?" the girl asked. Lily nodded slowly. The other girl laughed. "Do you even have a piano?" "I have a keyboard," Lily said quietly. "A keyboard?" The first girl rolled her eyes. "That's not the same thing. A talent show has a real piano. Like a big one. You probably don't even know how to play a real piano." Lily didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. The girls walked away, still laughing. Lily stared at her sandwich and suddenly didn't feel hungry anymore. After school, she didn't go straight home. Instead, she walked to the auditorium and stood outside the doors. Through the small window, she could see the piano sitting on the stage, just like always. It looked so beautiful, so perfect. But now it also looked a little bit scary. What if those girls were right? What if playing on a keyboard wasn't the same as playing on a real piano? What if she got up there and her fingers didn't work the way they were supposed to? What if she messed up in front of everyone and Mrs. Coleman was right all along? She was about to turn and walk away when the auditorium door opened. Mr. Bennett stepped out, holding a stack of music books. He looked surprised to see her, but then he smiled. "Lily," he said, "what are you doing standing out here?" She shrugged. "Just looking." Mr. Bennett glanced through the window at the piano, then back at her. "You know, that piano isn't going to bite you." Lily almost smiled. "Come on," he said, holding the door open. "Let's go inside." Lily hesitated, but then followed him in. The auditorium was empty and quiet. Their footsteps echoed as they walked toward the stage. Mr. Bennett climbed a few steps and set his books down on a chair. Then he turned and looked at Lily, who was still standing at the bottom. "Well," he said, "are you coming up or not?" Slowly, Lily climbed the steps. She walked across the stage and stopped in front of the piano. Up close, it was even more beautiful than she had imagined. The wood was dark and polished. The keys were smooth and white, with thin black ones in between. She reached out and touched one of the keys gently. It made a soft, clear sound that echoed through the empty room. "Go ahead," Mr. Bennett said. "Sit down." Lily sat on the bench. It felt different from the little stool she used at home. It was heavier, sturdier. She placed her fingers on the keys and took a deep breath. "What do you want to play?" Mr. Bennett asked. Lily thought for a moment. Then she started to play the song her grandmother had taught her. It was a slow, gentle melody, full of emotion. Her fingers moved carefully at first, a little unsure. But then something clicked. The music started to flow, just like it always did when she played at home. She forgot about the empty seats and the big stage. She forgot about Mrs. Coleman and the mean girls and all the whispers. She just played. When she finished, the last note hung in the air for a long moment. Then there was silence. Lily looked up at Mr. Bennet. He was staring at her with wide eyes. "Where did you learn to play like that?" he asked softly. "My grandma," Lily said. "She taught me before she passed away. I've been practicing ever since." Mr. Bennet shook his head slowly, like he couldn't quite believe what he had just heard. "Lily," he said, "that was incredible. You have real talent. I mean it. That kind of feeling doesn't come from just practice. It comes from somewhere deep inside." Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest. No one except her parents had ever said anything like that to her. "But I'm scared," she admitted. "What if I mess up at the talent show? What if everyone laughs at me?" Mr. Bennet sat down on the edge of the stage. "Let me tell you something," he said. "I've been teaching music for over 20 years. I've seen kids with all the training in the world get up on stage and play like robots. No heart, no feeling, just notes on a page. And then I've seen kids like you who play with their whole soul. That's what people remember. Not the perfect notes. The feeling." Lily looked down at her hands. "But what about Mrs. Coleman?" she asked quietly. "She doesn't think I should be in the show." Mr. Bennet was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Mrs. Coleman doesn't know what I just heard. And honestly, that's not for her to decide. You signed up. You have every right to be in that show." He stood up and looked at her. "I'll tell you what. The auditorium is empty after school most days. If you want to come and practice on the real piano, I'll make sure the door is unlocked for you. That way, when the night of the show comes, you'll be ready." Lily felt tears prick at her eyes, but she held them back. "You would do that for me?" she asked. "Of course," Mr. Bennet said. "That's what music teachers are supposed to do. We help students find their voice. And Lily, you've already found yours. You just need a little time to trust it." That evening, Lily ran home faster than she had ever run before. She burst through the door and found her mother in the kitchen making dinner. "Mom," she said, out of breath, "I played the piano at school today. The real one. And Mr. Bennet said I was incredible. He's going to let me practice there every day after school." Her mother turned around, a wooden spoon still in her hand, and her face lit up. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, pulling Lily into a hug. "I knew it. I always knew." And for the first time since they moved to the city, Lily felt like maybe things were going to be okay after all. The 6 weeks leading up to the talent show went by faster than Lily expected. Every day after school, she would walk to the auditorium, sit at that beautiful piano, and practice until the sun started to go down. Mr. Bennet was always nearby, sometimes grading papers in the corner, sometimes listening quietly from the back row. He never interrupted her. He just let her play dot at first. Lily was nervous every time she touched the keys. The piano felt so big, so powerful compared to her little keyboard at home. But day by day, she got more comfortable. Her fingers learned the weight of the keys. Her ears adjusted to the rich, deep sound that filled the room. And slowly, the piano started to feel less like a stranger and more like a friend. She decided to play a piece called Clair de Lune by a composer named Debussy. Her grandmother had loved that song. She used to hum it while cooking dinner or folding laundry. When Lily was little, she would sit next to her grandmother on the piano bench and watch her play it on the old keyboard. The notes were soft and dreamy, like moonlight falling through a window. It was the most beautiful thing Lily had ever heard. Learning to play it herself wasn't easy. The song was long and had tricky parts that made her fingers stumble. Some days she wanted to give up, but then she would close her eyes and remember her grandmother's voice. Music is patience, my little star. You don't rush the moon across the sky. You let it rise in its own time. So Lily kept practicing. Night after night, week after week. At home, her parents noticed the change in her. She seemed lighter, happier. She talked about the piano like it was a person she had fallen in love with. Her father would sit outside her bedroom door in the evenings, listening to her play on the keyboard. And sometimes Lily would catch him wiping his eyes when he thought she wasn't looking. "She sounds just like your mother," he said to Lily's mom one night. "It's like she's right here with us again." The night before the talent show, Lily couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her heart racing. Tomorrow was the day. Tomorrow, everyone would see her. Everyone would hear her. And either they would understand who she really was, or they would laugh and prove Mrs. Coleman right. She got out of bed and walked to her keyboard. She sat down and played Claire de Lune one more time, very softly, so she wouldn't wake her parents. When she finished, she whispered into the darkness, "Grandma, please be with me tomorrow." The day of the talent show arrived with gray skies and a light drizzle. Lily wore a dress her mother had found at a thrift store and altered to fit her perfectly. It was pale blue with small white flowers along the hem. Her mother had also braided her hair and tied it with a ribbon that matched the dress. "You look beautiful," her mother said, her eyes shining. "I'm so scared," Lily admitted that her mother knelt down and held her hands. "It's okay to be scared. Being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you do it anyway." Her father came over and kissed the top of her head. "We'll be right there in the audience, little star. No matter what happens, we're proud of you." The school auditorium was buzzing with energy when Lily arrived. Kids in costumes ran around backstage. Parents filled the seats, chatting and laughing. Teachers stood along the walls, making sure everything was in order. Lily peeked through the curtain and felt her stomach drop. There were so many people, more than she had ever seen in one place. And right in the middle of the front row sat Mrs. Coleman, her arms crossed, her face as stern as ever. Mr. Bennett found Lily backstage. He could see how nervous she was. "Hey," he said gently. "Look at me." Lily looked up. "You've done the work," he said. "You've practiced every single day. That piano out there knows your hands now. It knows your heart. All you have to do is sit down and let the music come. Don't think about the audience. Don't think about anyone else. Just play for your grandmother." Lily nodded, blinking back tears. The show began. One by one, the acts took the stage. A girl sang a pop song and got a big round of applause. A boy did magic tricks that mostly worked. A group of kids performed a dance routine with colorful outfits and lots of spinning. The audience clapped and cheered after each performance. Then the moment came. "And now," the principal announced into the microphone, "please welcome Lily, who will be playing piano for us tonight." The audience clapped politely. Lily heard a few whispers. She saw Mrs. Coleman lean over and say something to the teacher next to her. But she tried to block it all out. She walked onto the stage. The lights were bright and warm. The piano sat in the center, waiting for her. She made her way to the bench and sat down. The auditorium fell quiet. Lily placed her fingers on the keys. They were trembling. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. For a second, her mind went blank. She couldn't remember the first note. She couldn't remember anything. Then she closed her eyes, and she saw her grandmother's face, smiling, nodding, telling her, "Let the music rise in its own time." Lily pressed the first key. The note floated out into the silence, soft and pure. Then came the next note, and the next, and slowly the melody of Claire de Lune began to fill the room. At first, Lily played carefully, her fingers still a little shaky. But as the music continued, something shifted. The nervousness melted away. The audience disappeared. The bright lights faded. It was just Lily and the piano and the memory of her grandmother sitting beside her. She played like she had never played before. Every note carried emotion. Every pause had meaning. The music swelled and softened, rose and fell, like waves on a quiet shore. It wasn't just a performance. It was a conversation, a prayer, a love letter to someone who was no longer there, but would never be forgotten. In the audience, people stopped fidgeting. Parents leaned forward in their seats. Children who had been whispering went completely still. Even the teachers along the walls stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the small girl at the piano. Lily's mother sat in the back row, tears streaming down her face. Her father held her hand so tight, his knuckles turned white. And Mrs. Coleman? She sat in the front row with her arms no longer crossed. Her mouth was slightly open. Her eyes were wide. For the first time in a very long time, she had no words. The final notes of Clair de Lune drifted into the air and slowly faded. Lily lifted her fingers from the keys and let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the auditorium exploded. People shot to their feet. Applause roared from every corner of the room. Cheers and whistles filled the air. Lily looked up, blinking in the bright lights, not quite understanding what was happening. She looked out at the crowd and saw her parents standing in the back, clapping and crying at the same time. She saw Mr. Bennet near the stage door, smiling so wide it looked like his face might break. She saw kids who had ignored her, kids who had whispered about her, now standing and clapping like everyone else. And she saw Mrs. Coleman, still sitting, still staring, her face completely pale. Lily didn't smile at her. She didn't need to. She just stood up, took a small bow, and walked off the stage. She had said everything she needed to say. Backstage, Lily's hands were still shaking. She could hear the applause continuing in the auditorium, but it sounded far away, like it was coming from a dream. She leaned against the wall and tried to catch her breath. Did that really just happen? Did she really just do that? The curtain pushed aside, and her parents rushed through. Her mother reached her first, pulling her into a hug so tight Lily could barely breathe. "My baby," her mother whispered, her voice cracking. "You were incredible. You were absolutely incredible." Her father wrapped his arms around both of them, and for a long moment, the three of them just stood there, holding each other. Lily buried her face in her mother's shoulder, and finally let the tears come. They weren't sad tears. They were the kind of tears that come when you've been holding something inside for so long, and you finally get to let it out. "Grandma would have been so proud," her father said softly. "She's watching, little star." "I know she is." When they finally let go, Mr. Bennet was standing a few feet away, giving them space. He had a warm smile on his face. "Lily," he said, "I've been teaching music for a long time, and I can honestly say that was one of the most beautiful performances I've ever seen. You didn't just play that song. You made everyone in that room feel something. That's a gift that can't be taught." Lily wiped her eyes and smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Bennet, for everything, for believing in me when nobody else did." He shook his head. "I didn't give you anything you didn't already have. I just opened a door. You're the one who walked through it." The rest of the talent show continued, but Lily barely noticed. She sat with her parents in the back of the auditorium, still floating on a cloud. A few kids came up to her and said nice things. One boy told her that was the coolest thing he'd ever seen. A girl who had never spoken to her before said she wished she could play like that. Lily thanked them quietly, still not quite believing any of it was real. When the show ended, The principal took the stage to announce the winners. There were 3 places, and Lily hadn't even thought about winning. She had just wanted to play. She had just wanted to prove to herself that she could do it. In 3rd place, the principal said, our amazing dance group. The kids in colorful outfits ran up to collect their ribbon, jumping and cheering. In 2nd place, our wonderful singer. The girl who had sung the pop song walked up, grinning from ear to ear. And in 1st place, the principal said, pausing for effect, with a performance that moved us all, Lily and her beautiful piano piece. The auditorium erupted again. Lily sat frozen in her seat. Her mother had to nudge her to get up. She walked to the stage in a daze and accepted the small trophy the principal handed her. It wasn't big or fancy, but when Lily held it, it felt like the most important thing in the world. That was truly special, the principal said, shaking her hand. You have a real talent, young lady. Don't ever stop playing. Lily walked off the stage holding the trophy close to her chest. Her parents were waiting with open arms, and she fell into them once again. The crowd slowly started to leave. Families gathered their things. Kids chattered about the show, and teachers began folding up chairs. Lily and her parents were heading toward the exit when a voice stopped them. Excuse me? Lily turned around. Standing a few feet away was Mrs. Coleman. Her face looked different than usual. The sharpness was gone. The coldness in her eyes had melted into something Lily couldn't quite name. She looked smaller somehow, more human. Could I speak with Lily for a moment? Mrs. Coleman asked. Lily's mother tensed up, but Lily put a hand on her arm. It's okay, Mom, she said. I'll be right back. She walked over to Mrs. Coleman, still holding her trophy. The 2 of them stood near the edge of the stage, away from the noise of the crowd. For a long moment, Mrs. Coleman didn't say anything. She just looked at Lily like she was seeing her for the first time. I owe you an apology, Mrs. Coleman finally said. Lily didn't respond. She just waited. When you came to my class, Mrs. Coleman continued, I made assumptions about you. I looked at where you came from, at your situation, and I decided I already knew who you were. I thought I was protecting the school, protecting the talent show. But really, I was just being unfair. She paused and took a breath. What you did up there tonight, I've never seen anything like it. You played with more heart than most adults I know. And I almost stopped you from having that moment. I almost took that away from you because of my own ignorance. Lily looked at her teacher. She thought she would feel angry. She thought she might want to say something sharp, something that would make Mrs. Coleman feel as small as she had made Lily feel all those weeks. But standing there now, looking at this woman who had caused her so much pain, Lily didn't feel anger. She felt something closer to peace. My grandmother used to say that music has the power to change people, Lily said quietly. She said it can open doors that nothing else can. I think maybe that's what happened tonight. Mrs. Coleman's eyes grew wet. She nodded slowly. Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. She was, Lily said. She was the best person I ever knew. Mrs. Coleman looked down at her hands, then back at Lily. I'm going to do better, she said. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that you taught me something tonight, something I should have learned a long time ago. Lily thought about that for a moment. Then she said, my grandma also used to say that everyone deserves a second chance, even people who hurt us, because holding on to anger only makes the music inside us go quiet. A tear slipped down Mrs. Coleman's cheek. She quickly wiped it away. Thank you, Lily, she said, and congratulations. You truly earned it. Lily nodded and walked back to her parents. Her mother looked at her with concern. What did she say? Her mother asked. She said she was sorry, Lily replied, and I think she meant it. Her father put his hand on her shoulder. That took a lot of courage, little star. Both for her to say and for you to hear. The family walked out of the school together into the cool night air. The rain had stopped, and the sky had cleared just enough to reveal a few stars and a sliver of moon. Lily looked up and smiled. "Look, Mom," she said. "Clair de lune, moonlight." Her mother squeezed her hand. "It's like Grandma sent it just for you." That night, Lily placed her trophy on the shelf next to her grandmother's old photograph. She sat on her bed and looked at them both for a long time. The little girl who had walked into Riverside Elementary with a torn backpack and worn-out shoes had become someone different. Not because she had won a trophy, not because people finally saw her talent, but because she had learned to believe in herself. Even when no one else did not, she picked up the photograph and held it gently. "We did it, Grandma," she whispered. "We really did it." Outside her window, the moonlight poured in, soft and silver. And somewhere in the quiet of the night, Lily could have sworn she heard music playing. A gentle melody, floating on the breeze, like a grandmother humming her favorite song. Lily smiled, closed her eyes, and let the music carry her to sleep.